Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It as part of the greater Yeshiva YouTube with the one, the only, Ben Zion Lang. Number one, playing point guard or shooting guard, I'm not sure yet. All right, let's get started. The Mishnah on top of Gimel and Aleph. Talk today about doing Averos Lashma, Averos Mitzvahs Shalol Lashma, Averos Lashma. Which one is greater? We'll discuss that in Ben Zion. Build up on a question that I asked my Rebbe, my first real Rebbe, 23 years ago, 22 years ago. Around 22 years ago, I asked this of my Rebbe, my first real Rebbe. Question goes back when I was becoming when I started to become from. And I talked about this question with Masechus Nedarim, but I want to elaborate on that today in Masechus Nazir here and Daf Gimel. The question was, is it worse to do an Aveira B'Shogeg, where you didn't intend to do an Aveira, unless you did the Aveira? Or is it worse, like we're going to talk about the Mishnah over here, where you intended to do Aveira, but you ended up not doing an Aveira for some other reason, like we'll explain in the Mishnah? Which one is worse? My Rebbe had one opinion. I, 22 years ago, a novice to Judaism, had a different opinion. And this bothered me. He was very clear and adamant his way. And I, thought logically my way made sense. So I was left debating this in my mind until I came to a Gemara Masechus Nedarim. And here, this Gemara also weighs in on this. It's not clear 100% from the Gemara, but there are proofs to my side. I still maintain my side of the opinion. One day, hopefully, I'll get to discuss it with this rabbi again. His name is Rabbi Koningsberg, Rabbi Eliakim Koningsberg. I believe he is still a Rosh Yeshiva in Yeshiva University. He wasn't in YP, the highest program at that point. It was actually his first year as a Rebbe. He was in BMP, the second tier learning program, and I believe now he's one of the biggest Rosh Yeshiva there. I owe a lot to him. He was a great Rebbe for me. Really introduced me to the idea of Lumdus, showing two sides to analyze something, making it simplified analytics, which I found more important than what I gained in years later from my main Rebbe, Rav Yaakov Friedman, where he sort of introduced this idea of a third side in analytics, two sides plus a third side, a middle side, where he usually liked to advance that middle way. I'm really balanced with these two different ways, but I found that in the long run, Yaakov Koningsberg's way makes a little more sense, even though it's not as meduyak. But sometimes it's better not to be so exacting with things that are really just hypothetical. Analytics is really, and the Gemara is really hypothetical. Let's get into it. The Mishnah, Chaf Gimel and Aleph. Ha'isha shenadra b'Nazir. She took in Nazir upon herself. Ha'isa shosei yayin v'tamel l'meisem. She was drinking wine and becoming tamel l'meisem. Reizes ofeges es arboim. She gets malchus. She violated her Naziros. Hey for la baila. Let's say she took Naziros. And the husband was Mayfair. V'hilo yada. She hey for la baila. She didn't know. She, right, after the hafara, after the husband was Mayfair the nether, she continued, and she knowingly, right, drank wine and tamel l'meisem. I don't care about Naziros. But then she found out her husband was Mayfair her Naziros. She wasn't a Nazira when she drank wine and she was tamel l'meisem. She doesn't get malchus. She wasn't a Nazir. At least she gets malchus from the Rabbanan. She did something. She intended to do something wrong. We don't pass it. The Pasuk says her husband was Mayfair and Hashem should forgive her. What are we talking about? The husband was Mayfair her Naziros, and she didn't know about it. Whether it was a neder or a Naziros, she needs kapara slicha. He was crying. Someone who intended to eat pork, right? And ended up, he ordered pork at the restaurant, and by accident they gave him meat from a sheep, right, which is kosher. Ton kapara v'slicha. He needs kapara v'slicha, right? Basically, that's doing, right, which is our Mishnah, right? He intends to do each chazer. She intends to violate her Naziros, and there was no violation. And our pasuk says Hashem yislach, she needs slicha kapara. Um, I'm a skaven alas biyada basar chazir, al biyada basar chazir. What intends he pork and he actually consummates his act and does eat pork. Alachas kama kama, certainly, all the more so, he needs a lot of kapara. Similarly, at the Omer, the pasuk says by bringing a carbon asham tolui, he doesn't know if he did an avera that would, if he actually did it, if he did avera, he'd be chayav achatas. Asham tolui is your suffix whether you're chayav achatas or not. V'nisa avono, and I'll carry his iniquity. Right? He intended to eat the meat of a sheep, and he ended up eating pork. For example, there was a piece of meat. He wasn't sure if it was actually shuman, which is kosher meat, or it was chaylev, or the forbidden fats of an animal. He wasn't sure, and he ate it. Amar krav, and it turned out he didn't. He ate something that was kosher. Amar krav nasa avono. He has to carry his iniquity. And I'm sorry, he doesn't know what he ate. So he has to bring korban asham toloi. So bring a korban. Bringing a korban is a form of kapara. Misha is kavan alas biyada basar chazir, al biyada basar chazir, alachas kama kama. Certainly, if he intended to do avera and he ate pork, it's even worse. Easy ben Yehuda Omer, he has a different opinion. Lo yada ben asham and asa avona. What is the pasuk talking about? What is asham toloi talking about? Misha is kavan alas biyada basar tzlav, al biyada basar chazir. Right, he had to do something mutter, and it ended up being usher. There are two pieces of meat. One he knew was shuman, and one was chaylev. And also, he ate one of them. He doesn't know which one he ate. Hamiskaven, and he has to bring a korban asham toloi. Right, it's actually machlogas between these two opinions, Isa ben Yehuda and the Tanakama. When do you bring asham toloi? Only when it's chazik yisur, we know the answer is there, or even though it's chazik yisur. The Ram happens to paskin only when it's chazik yisur, when you know it's two pieces of meat. Then you make korban asham toloi. And I explained in many shiurim the difference is, it's not that it's asham toloi according to the Rambam. Savik daraisa l'chumra, right? The fact that you bring asham toloi and a savik daraisa l'chumra shows it's in daraisa. The daraisa have to bring korban asham toloi. That's only talking about it's chazik yisur. We know the answer is there. There we say savik daraisa l'chumra midaraisa. However, if it's one piece of meat, we don't know if it's shuman or chaylev, and he ate it. So therefore, you don't bring a korban asham toloi. In that case, we'd say savik daraisa l'chumra. Obviously, savik daraisa l'chumra, but only midarabban. That's why you don't bring korban asham toloi. That's how I learn all over Shas. That's the way I learn. Even though it's Malchus Rishonim, similarly to the Rashba and the Rambam, I think they generally agree. I think the way we should understand it is that it's Savik Daraisa L'chum Midrabbanan when there's no Ischaz Yisura. Certainly, if he intends to do an Aveira to eat pork, and he does, it's even worse. In these cases, right, even when he didn't intend to do Aveira, he did an Aveira, people that have emotion should be sad. Why do you have to tell me all these cases? I need all these cases. Isha, right? Our Mishnah. There she needs atonement. She had intended to violate her Nazir on purpose, but mazed. He intended to eat something that was mutter. He shouldn't need kapara. Nonetheless, he needs to bring korban asham tolei. If it would say the second case, the Isura, the Nisra, Aval Isha the Hefela Baila. Her husband was made for the Nazireth before she actually violated it. She did a heter. Loti boy kapara slicha. She didn't need kapara slicha. They had more hani tarti. We just said these two. Hava amina hani tarti who desagi lohim kapara. These two, it's good enough to have kapara slicha. Hashem will forgive you. Glik by Isura. Right? There's no chazaka that there's an Isra over here. Aval shtei chatichas achas shachel achas shal shuman dikba Isura. Right? One is Chaylev and one is Shuman, where there's Vada in Israel. You wouldn't even be allowed to bring an Asham Tali. The Torah didn't give you a recourse. Kamashmalan, no, that you can bring an Asham Tali and get Kapara. Kamashmalan, Lo Shana, it doesn't make a difference. Even in this case, you can bring Asham Tali and get Kapara. Amar Rav Rachana Rabbi Yochanan, My Dichsiv Ki Yesharim Derech Hashem Sadikim Yelchel Bam Boshim Mikashlu Bam. The ways of Hashem are straight. Sadikim will walk in a straight way. Aposhlim will stumble. The people that intend to do Averas will stumble. It's a metaphor for two people that roasted their Karan Pesach. One ate the Karan Pesach for the purpose of the mitzvah of eating Karan Pesach. One person ate it Achila Gasa, meaning he was satisfied. He didn't want to eat anymore. It wasn't that he was nauseated. It was nauseated that would be an Avera. But he ate it, he was full. He ate it achila gas. So technically, you're supposed to eat it ala sova, right? You're fit. You're almost satiated, but you have a little room for dessert. So you have your lamb chops for dessert. But he ate achila gasa. He ate too much already, so he's a posheya. Amar le Rosh Lakish, hi Rasha Karista. You're gonna call this guy a Rasha? Rasha mikashel. He did the low ka'avid mitzvah and mufri. He did the best mitzvah. He ate technically ala sova. Pesach miyakavid. He ate them. He did perform the mitzvah of Karam Pesach. He was just a little too full. What is it a metaphor? Two people. Imo. He has in his bed. He has his wife and he has his sister. They didn't have enough room in the house. His sister is staying with him. They were in one bed. The second person also has a bed with his wife and his sister. And this man in the middle of the night wanted to be together with his wife, presumably. One man, he ended up being together with his wife. One man, it was dark, they couldn't see. It ended up being with his sister. The person who wanted to do the right thing is tzaddik, he wanted to do the right thing. So Hashem made it work out that, right, tzaddikim, the Gemara says, Hashem doesn't let them do an aveira. So therefore, they'll get to they'll do a mitzvah to be together with their wives. That Yechubam is the one that ended up being with the sister. He really wanted to do an aveira, so he ended up getting his sister. So the made dummy. You can't compare it to the pasuk. There, right? Here's two possibilities over here, right? It's his wife and his sister. We're talking about one derech, one thing. What is it a metaphor for? Lot v'shnei benosav, and his two daughters, Imo. They, when they were together with their father, they did it l'shem mitzvah. Tzaddikim yelchubam. They were tzaddikim. Koniyos. Who should have l'shem avera? He did l'shem avera. We'll see in a second why he did l'shem avera. He was a posheya. He's someone that rebelled against Hashem. The Dilma, who nami l'shem mitzvah. Maybe he also did a l'shem mitzvah, right? They wanted to propagate the world. They thought the whole world was collapsed. The whole world was destroyed. So they wanted to make sure the world didn't come to extinction. We learned from this pasuk that Lot was an avarian. He intended to do averas. Vayisal Lot. So the pasuk says when Lot was splitting up from Avram, Lot looked and he showed which way. Avram said, which way you want to go? You want to go right? I'll go left. You want to go left? I'll go right. So he looked at Vayisal Lot. Eina vayaras kikar yarden gula mashke. He did pick up his eyes and he saw kikar yarden. Kikar yarden, I guess, is the West Bank. He saw that. So the Gemara Darshan, Vayisal Lot, he picked up his eyes. Vatisa Eishes Adonai V'Saneh. It's all a reference to the lewdness of Lot. He picked up his eyes. So that's similar to the pasuk. The wife of Potiphar picked up her eyes to go after Yosef as Einav. It says Vayisal Lot Einav. He picked up his eyes. Ki Yashra Me'enai. This is a pasuk by Shimshon. He says he wants to be with the woman from the Plishtim. Right, from Gaza. Vayar, Osa, Vayar, says, Lot saw, Vayar Osa Shchem ben Chamor set his eyes on Dinah, as Kol Kikar Ayarde, Kibar Ijdona at Kikar Lechem. That's a reference to a pasuk in Mishlei. For a woman who's a prostitute, he'll give even the loaf of his bread, the last loaf of bread, he'll give to a prostitute. Kikula Mashke, what is that referencing to? Elcha Acharei Mahava, I know Lachmi, maybe similar to Pishti Shmana Vishikuyet. Right, a woman is saying who's a prostitute, she'll go after. Nonetheless, she'll go after the man who's going to provide for her, give her water, her bread, her clothing, shikuya, mashka, her drink, her alcohol. The made us honest. The Gemara says it wasn't Lot's fault over here, right? He had to, right? They got him drunk. So he didn't know what was going on, right? They gave him wine. He was drunk. He didn't intend to be together with his daughter. If you look in the pasuk, there's a dot on top of the vav, ufkuma, the vav ufkuma when she got up, shal bechira, when the first one got up. Lomar shebeshikfa lo yada, when he slept with his first daughter, right? He didn't know, he was drunk. Al bakuma yada, when she got up, after it was over, he realized it was his daughter. Omay dahava le'lamabit. He didn't do anything wrong. Whatever happened, happened. She already got up. The second night, when his second daughter was with him, he shouldn't have drank wine because he knew this was going to happen. So he was at fault. A brother sinned or was rebellious. Mikirias Oz from a city of strength. And he caused fights like the briach, which is basically the bar of a castle, right? That closes the castle, that keeps the castle door shut. What does that mean? It's to reference Lo Shapirish Ma Avram. He was a brother. He wasn't exactly his brother. He was his nephew. However, they were brothers. They had a good relationship. He separated from the city, the strong city Avram. By separating from him, he created a big fight and strife between them, similar to the strength of the bar and the palace. The palace is heavily fortified. The bar closes the door. Pasuk says that Klal Yisrael can never marry someone from Ammon or Moab. Ammon and Moab were the descendants of the two sons that Lot bore from, that Lot gave the seed to create, and to his two daughters to create Ammon and Moab. Darash Rava v'Tamer Rabbi Yitzchak ma'idich siv l'tava yivakish nefer l'chol tushke yaskala. For taiva, for desires, a person will end up by himself. L'tava yivakish nefer zel Lot. This is Lot. He intended to have desires. He ended up being separated from Abraham. L'chol tushke yaskala. And in all the places of wisdom, his iniquity will be known. Shinizgala kalona b'batek nesev on rashos. Right, his embarrassment, the fact that he slept with his two daughters, right, even though he knew that it was his daughters, it became famous in shuls and batim midrashos, place where they learn this. It's a mishnah mefurish, Maseches Yevamos or Kedushin, both of them. Yevamos, Amoni Moavi or Oster for Klal Yisrael, and they're Oster forever. That's a famous mission. They're always going to be talking about that. Everyone's going to remember Lot. Amar Ula, Tamar Zinsa, Zimri Zina. Right? The Gemara is comparing people that do an Aveira, we'll see, for the right intentions, people do an Aveira for the wrong intentions. Tamar, she was a prostitute. She was together with Yehuda. Zimri, right? The famous story of Zimri, also was Mizana with one of the Midyanis, the woman from Midyan. Tamar Zinsa Yasamen Malachim Nevi'im. She was a prostitute. However, kings and Nevi'im came out for her. Yehuda eventually, from his progeny came David and Nevi'im. Zimri Zina, Zimra did prostitution. Because of him, there was a plague that hit Yisrael, killed 24,000 people. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Gedola Aveira Lishma, Mitzvah Shalol Lishma. It's greater to do an Aveira as long as you're doing the Aveira for the right reasons. To do a mitzvah, not for the right reasons. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Olam Asik Adam Torah Mitzvah Safilo Shalol Lishma, Shvedach Shalol Lishma, Baal Lishma. Where it says, what do you mean? Mitzvah Shalol Lishma. Even if you don't do it for the right intentions, it's still good to do it. Even if you learn Torah because you want to watch the Super Bowl and you want to have a good time, the only person who's going to turn on the TV for you to watch the Super Bowl if you agree to learn with him for half an hour during Rihanna's Super Bowl performance, where she announced her pregnancy, and you didn't watch that, right? It's better to, right? Even though he'll allow you to watch the Super Bowl on his TV, on his Wi-Fi network, because he has NFL League Pass in Israel there. Nonetheless, I don't know, he'd stay up in the middle of the night. I actually did stay up one a couple years ago when it was Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Chiefs. I wanted to see it. Brady and Mahomes, epic showdown. Of course, Brady and the Bucs trounced the Chiefs. It was a terrible game. I went to sleep at 11 o'clock. I woke up at 1 o'clock here in Israel. Bought the game, NFL League Pass. It was like $15. It wasn't that expensive. I watched from 1 o'clock to 5:30. I in disbelief, I shut it off. They won like 31-9 or something. It was a terrible game. I was very upset. This year actually might have been worth it to watch, but I learned my lesson. I'm not doing that again. So it's better even to do mitzvah shalol lishma, because eventually, from starting to do it shalol lishma, you'll come to do it lishma. So whereas ema can mitzvah shalol lishma, an avera lishma, and doing an avera lishma is equal. The Gemara says to doing a mitzvah shalol lishma. Where do you know the concept of doing avera lishma? Even though we just learned it from Tamar, but also Tevorach Menashem Yoel Eishes Chever Akini Menashem Ba'ol Tevorach. Blessed from the women, Yael. Yael was the famous woman who took Sisera right into her tent, and apparently she fed him milk, and she ended up killing him. Menashem Ba'ol Tevorach, from women in the Oel, in the tent, she'll be blessed. Ma Nashim Ba'ol. She's blessed like the woman in the tent. Who is the woman in the tent a reference to? Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah. They lived in early times. They had tents. That's where they lived in. So she's compared to those ladies, even though she did an Aveira. We'll see in a second. Aveira Lishma. She was together with Sisera. Everyone thinks she just gave him milk. No, she gave him milk, and they had bia. They had intercourse 7 times. Amar Yochanan Sheva Bilos Balos Arash. They were together 7 different times. She never been on Glea Kara Nafal Shachav. You read the entire pasuk. it says the words kara, nafal, and shachaf in different variations 7 times, which are all references to bias being together. V'hakam is hanyam bi'ila, delay. What do you mean it's an avera lishma? What do you mean lishma? Lishma means she did it for the right intent. A woman who's together with a man, she's going to enjoy it a little bit, right? So she enjoyed it. It's not lishma. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, kol tavas and shorashayim, even the good stuff that comes from Rishayim, for tzaddikim, it's bad for them. They don't enjoy it. Shenemar, Hashem says to Esav, when he was chasing after him, he says, don't talk for him. He came into a dream. Don't talk for him, not good or bad. Bishlam a rasha, or to say bad things to him. Hashem didn't want to say Alatov. I might love to say good things to him, to tell him about the news, how he's doing well in the stock market. Why shouldn't he tell him that? Even good things, that positive news, or the grandkid he did, our grandkid did our grandkid, my grandkid, Yaakov's children did so good. You wouldn't believe what Reuven did in Cheder today. He knew the parsha so well. It's bad. They don't want to talk to Rishayim. It's Rahi Shema Mina. That's why Hashem was warning. Don't tell him even good stuff because he doesn't want to hear it. Gufa Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav from you. Gufa Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Olam Yatzak Adam Mitzvah Mitzvahs Afila Shalol Shema Shemedach Shalol Shema Bal Shema. We had the Gemara earlier. It's good to do mitzvahs, even Shalol Shema, even if not for the right reasons. Because eventually it'll come to the Shema. It was char membeis karbonos. How do you know it's a good thing to do a mitzvah Shalol Shema? Membeis karbonos shehikrav Balak Harasha. He ended up bringing 42 karbonos. Bilam told Balak, right, when he wanted to curse Klal Yisrael, bring some karbonos on the mountains. He ended up bringing 42 karbonos to Hashem. Zachav yatzim men Rus. He eventually, out of Balak's lineage, came Rus. Amar Rabbi Yosef Rechanina, Rus bas benosh al Eglon Melech Moab Haisa. She was the granddaughter of Eglon, the king of Moab. Right, and that's a proof, right, because Eglon was the grandson of Balak. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Minayin she'Hakadosh Baruch Hu mekapeach afilu schar sicha not. Even if someone has a nice words, nice talk, Hashem gives reward for that. Dila b'chira the karise Moab, right? The oldest daughter, right? When she's together with her father Lot, the son that she had from him, she called Moab, which sounds like Me'av. She explicitly said, "It comes from my father." Amalei Rachmana al Tatzeres Moab. Hashem said when they were passing through to get back to Eretz Yisrael, al Tatzeres Moab, don't besiege Moab. Al Tizkar Milchama, and don't engage with them in any form of warfare. Milchama hudelo al tzuri tzarin. You can cause them pain. Cause them financial pain. You can scare them. Vila Seira, the younger daughter, the Karisa Ben Ami, she called her son Ben Ami, the son of my nation. She was discreet about it. She didn't explicitly say it was for my father. Amalei Al Tatsurim Al Tizkarbam. It says in the pasuk, Hashem said to Klal Yisrael, don't besiege them. Al Tizkarbam. Don't start out with them at all. Afila Suri Lamatarina. Don't even bait them because it causes them pain. Klal. So therefore, because she was discreet and not saying it came from my father, she got rewarded. A person should always, when he has the opportunity to do a mitzvah, should do it as quickly as possible. Right? Even though the first daughter called her son Moab, but she was the first one to sleep. The older one slept with the father first. Right? Because she did that first. Zaksa Vikadma, the top of Chavdal and Aleph, Arba Doros B'Yisrael Malchus. She ended up having 4 generations of kings before her sister, because, as we said before, first of all, Oved, Yishai, David, and Shlomo all came from Rus, right? Rus was with Boaz, and then at the end of Megillas Rus, you see that, and they were all considered kings. David and Shlomo were kings. Oved and Yishai also were considered big tzaddikim, they're like kings. And only Shlomo's son, Rechavam, Shlomo had a wife who was Naamah, Ammonis, she was from Ammon. So only then Rechavam was the first king from Ammon. So from Moab, the first daughter, she slept with her father first, and she had the right intentions. She wanted to propagate the world. They thought the world was destroyed. So therefore, she had kings 4 generations before her sister did. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Zion, where I talk about the difference. What's worse and what's greater, right? What's worse? To have kavanah do an avera but not do an avera, or have kavanah not do an avera and do the avera. Same thing by mitzvahs, right? Well, mitzvah shalol lishma, mitzvah we don't have the right kavanos, or is it better to do an avera lishma, an avera with the right intentions? What's more important, the action or the intention? We'll talk about that. Ian with Ben Zion coming up next.